All right, so completing the square, what's the first thing we want to make sure of?
You want to get the 5 over the other side?
Yeah, but even before we do that, that's the next thing to do.
We do the B over 2 square. Make sure the.
Not yet, Cody.
Make sure X is.
Yeah, make sure A, the number in front of the x squared is a 1, right? Okay, which it is. So then we can do taking the 5 over to the other side. We got to subtract it to move it over, right? All right, so Kennedy, how do I fill in the blank? All right, 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 2 squared is? 4. All right, so we should put a 4 in there. So, first thing, A must be 1, right? And then the blank is B over 2 squared, right? The B value. Remember, the blank is always adding the blank, because it's always going to be a positive number. So, how do I factor this, Nikki?
It'll be X plus 2.
X plus 2, good. Squared, right? When you complete the square, we make it into one of those special trinomials that can factor like this, 1 parentheses squared. Again, all you're doing is taking the square root of x squared, whatever's in front of the b value goes there, and the square root of whatever you put in there. All right, and then on the other side, just do the addition. Okay, so now it looks like that square root method, right? Jamie, what do we do now? Yeah, because what you do to one side, you got to do the other, right? So, what's the left side, Jamie? Okay. Myers, what's the right side?
Plus minus I to the first, the radical 1.
Well, what is radical 1?
Okay. We need to get rid of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a perfect square, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you put an I radical,
Does it hurt to have it in there?
well, I would say yes, because you didn't simplify it.
Okay.
You know, if it's a perfect square, if you guys saw 9, you would make it a 3, right? So don't leave it the square root of 1, because you know that's a 1, right? So, yeah, you won't do that tomorrow. You or not. And then just subtract 2 to finish it up. All right, so there's our solutions. -2 plus I, -2 minus I. Simple, right? Okay, but that's the type that usually give us the most problems of the 4 types. Factoring, square root method, the completing the square usually is the one. All right, questions before we move on? You okay? All right, so let's go over the practice quiz. Get ready for tomorrow's quiz. All right, so the first 2 that you'll do tomorrow, you'll have to solve by factor. Okay, so you're getting quizzed on 4 different methods. You got to know all 4 methods. All right, when we factor, first thing we do is look for a difference. A GCF, right? Is there a GCF? No. Difference of squares? No. Sum or difference of cubes? No. Special trinomial? No. Regular trinomial? Yes. Okay, and what's the last thing we look? If it's none of the other ones? Remember? Grouping, right? It's got 4 things, right? Okay, so this one's an easy one, because what's the A value? 1. So all I'm worried about is the C value. Factors of -10. I got 4 factors, 4 pairs, that'll give me -10. Then I add each pair until I get a +3. Which one is it? This one, right? That's the one I want to use. So I don't have to rewrite it as a grouping problem. I just go ahead and do it because only one way to get x squared is x times x, minus 2 and plus 5. And we have a factor, but we're not done. We've got to find what values of x make this equal 0, right? So remember, if something times something is 0, one of the two somethings has to be 0, right? So either x minus 2 equals 0 or x plus 5 equals 0. So we just finished those. Most of you can look at the factored part and tell me that the two answers are negative 5 and positive 2. That's okay. Just make sure you do that. Don't just stop there and move on. Tell me the answers are 2 and negative 5. Okay? Number 2 is a little bit more work. It's not that much tougher. It just takes a little bit more time because our A value is not 1 this time. Also, it's not equal to 0 first, right? So the first step would be to subtract the 3. So it's equal to 0. Now, when A is 2 or bigger, what do we do with the 2 and the negative 3? What do we do with those two numbers? Multiply, right? And we get negative 6. Then we do the same thing like we did with the negative 10. We find factors of negative 6. That add, give me positive 5, which would be this pair, right? So I have to rewrite the problem. Okay? 2x squared and the minus 3 equals 0. That doesn't change. What we change is this 5x into these two. Negative 1x minus 6x, or plus 6x. And if you wrote 6x minus 1x, it will still work out. It's okay. It doesn't matter what order those go. So what we did is we changed it to a 4-term problem, a grouping problem. And now we're going to group first 2, last 2. And we look for GCF, the first thing we always look for when we graph, right? So I pull out the 1x, that's GCF of those two. 2x squared divided by 1x is 2x, and negative 1x divided by 1x is negative 1. And 3 goes into both of those, that's the GCF, and 6x divided by 3 is 2x, and negative 3 divided by 3 is negative 1. So Zach, what are my two factors?
1x plus 3, 2x minus 1.
Good. The GCFs you pulled out is one factor, and those 2x minus 1s, they have to be the same in order for me to finish it up, but they are the same. So again, I'm not quite finished. Haas, what do I do now?
You said each equation kind of equal to 0.
Good. So this one we would add 1 and divide by 2. So 1/2. It's okay to get fractions or decimals. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong. And subtract 3. So negative 3 is our other solution. Okay? Questions? Simple, right? Michael? All right. 3 and 4, the square root procedure. We usually use this one when we don't have an x term, a b value. Okay? So when we do this method, we want to get the squared part isolated, alone. On the left, everything else on the right. Okay? So, Tasha, what are we going to do first? Very good. We gotta get that to the other side. Now the squared part's alone, so Liam, what do we do? Yep, square root both sides. Okay, so what's the square root of something squared? Itself. Chase, what's the square root of negative 16? 4, yeah. And then since it's negative, what else? Yeah, don't forget about the I. What else we got to do? Plus or minus. Very good, Cody. Don't forget your plus or minus symbol. Every year I get a couple kids in every class forget the plus or minus. Kennedy, don't do that. All right, and then subtract 3, finish up. Now remember, if that was a positive 16 instead of 4i, what's the answer? Just a 4, right? If it was positive 16, would I just leave it negative 3 plus or minus 4 and be done? No, go ahead and finish those. You can do those problems, right? Negative 3 plus 4 would be 1. Negative 3 minus 4 would be negative 7. So if you get one that works out nice tomorrow, finish it up. Find the actual 2 answers. All right. We good on number 3? Number 4, 4x squared minus or plus 20. 0, Ashton, what we do first? Good. You want to get that x squared alone. Okay, a lot of kids make a mistake right here. Because you can take the square root of 4x squared and get 2x, right? But the x squared part, the squared part is not alone yet. So move the 4 first. Divide by 4. Then take your square root. Oops. What is 20 divided by 4? 5, right? Go ahead and do that. So now I take my square roots. Sydney, what's the answer? Yeah, the I we put in the front though, right? And square root of 5, good. And we got to remember what? Plus or minus. Okay, so if you pull the I out, we always put it in front of the radical instead of behind it. Square root method? Okay. Complete the square method. Brendan, what you gonna do first?
I'm first gonna make sure that A is 1, and then I'm gonna move the 10 over.
How'd you move it over?
Added it on both sides.
Good. What do you put in the blank, Brendan?
B over 2 squared, and for that I got 16.
Good. Half of 8 is 4, and 4 squared, 16. Any questions so far? So, Chris Walls, what does this factor to? Very good. Carter, now what? Very good, sir. So I get x plus 4 equals plus or minus. Will that simplify? square root of 26? Won't, will it? If I try to do a factor tree, I just get 2 times 13. There's no perfect square in there, no pairs of the same number. We'll just leave it square root of 26. And then finish up by bringing the 4 over by subtracting it. Questions? Simple, right? All right. Number 6 is probably the toughest one. Why is it a little tougher? Got that 2. Then what happens? What'd you say, John? Okay. All right, so we got a 2 in for A. So we got to divide everything by 2 first, right? So I get x squared plus 5x. I'm going to take the 3 halves over. I'm going to kind of do 2 things at once here. So I'm going to add the 3 halves. So what else is going on in this problem? Makes it a little bit tougher. The b is odd, right? So Kyle, you were saying something about a fraction?
Yeah, it's gonna be 5 over 2.
Right. So if it's odd, just put it over 2 as a fraction. And we square it, right? So then you just square the top and bottom.
On the side of the 4.
Right. Okay? So what's my factor form? Kennedy? Very good. Okay, square, it's always going to be x because that has to be x squared, right? B was a plus again. Remember, if there's a minus there, this would be minus 9. And then this is the square root of that, or before you squared it, whatever that number was before you squared it. All right, now I got to add 3 halves and 25 fourths. Again, I would do it in my head because I'm such a genius, but you guys would probably put it in your calculator, which is okay. All right. So when you put it in this calculator, put parentheses. I don't think it matters in this problem, but I just get in the habit of putting parentheses around fractions. It just always seems to work out then. All right. Now it's going to be a decimal. How do I switch it back? Math, enter, enter, right? We get 31 fourths.
This one, you just want to count the denominator.
Yeah, that's what I would do, right? Which is 4, right? So I multiply by 2 to get 4. So 3 times 2 is 6 plus 25, 31, right? Yeah, it's quicker. Now what? Square root, right? So I get x plus 5 halves equals plus or minus 31. Square root doesn't do anything. You know, we can't make it any simpler, but square root of 4 is. So you can, if you want, when you subtract 5 halves, leave it negative 5 halves plus or minus the square root of 31 over 2, or 31, square root of 31 halves. I like to, since they're already both 2's, make it one fraction. Just put over 2 and go negative 5 because I'm subtracting it, plus or minus square root of 31 over 2. But either way, if you keep it separate or make it 1, it's acceptable. I want it in radical form though. I don't want the decimal answers. Don't put the square root of 31 in your calculator. Negative 5 plus it divided by 2 and negative 5 minus it divided by 2. Radical form. We're good on completing the square. So remember, if you get an odd b, just write it over 2 and square it. Okay? We're top and bottom. All right. Quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c over 2 times A. I like to put the parentheses around them. That way I don't mess up my signs when I put it in the calculator. Okay, but you don't have to have those parentheses if you don't want. Just remember, when you square a negative, the answer is a what? Positive, right, Nikki? Negative 5 times negative 5 is still positive 25, right? So, number 7. And again, I will not have this up on the board for you. You guys have to know that. It's like the 33rd time out of 4 years of high school. Those of you that are seniors, if you've had this, you should have it down by now. All right, is it equal to 0 yet? No. So let's add the x and the 1. So, Cody, what's my ABC? Right. But what numbers are in front of x squared now? Yeah, those are the numbers I want. I don't need to worry about the variables, right? Just the numbers. Okay? So 1, 1, 1 for my variables. So every spot, negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c over 2 times a. So that gives me a negative 1 plus or minus the square root of something over 2. 1 squared is a 1. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times another 1 is still negative 4. So we get negative 3. I'm all done, right? No, what do I got to do? Take that negative out, make it a what? Guys are such good math students. Can't make it hard for you at all, can I? Whoops, I didn't want to do that. I want to do this. All right, number 8. 3x squared minus 5x plus 4. It's already equal to 0. So I'm good there. A is 3. B is negative 5. C is 4. So x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c over 2 times a. So x equals positive 5 plus or minus the square root of something over 6. Now remember, negative 5 squared is still positive 25. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. Negative 12 times 4 is a negative 48. That gives me a negative 23. So I gotta pull my I out again. Okay. Get that done. We good? So, why did a lot of you put question marks for this class? Is it really that tough? Did you read it?
No.
Well, that could make a difference if you read it.
Okay.
All right, so it says this: the cost in dollars of publishing X books is. So what's that represent? The cost, right? That whole thing represents the cost of publishing however many books. X is however many, right? And they had a formula for it. there's the formula. Okay? So if I wanted to publish 100,000 books, how would I figure out how much it would cost me? Just plug it in the formula, right?
Yeah.
Plug 100,000 in for X, right? Is that what this is asking? No. This is asking, if you had $325,000, how many books would you publish? So where's the 325 go? For cost, right? So here's our equation. 325,000 equals 40,000 plus 20x plus 0.0001x squared. So which of the four methods would be the best to use for this problem?
Probably quadratic.
Yeah, the quadratic formula would be the best, right? But I gotta do what first? Set it equal to 0. So how do I do that? Yeah, bring the 325 over to the other side, so you got nothing on the left. So I got 0 equals negative 285,000 plus 20x plus 0.0001x squared. Does that make sense? Now, what's my A? Yeah, the A's at the other end. Remember, A is still the one in front of the x squared, right? And B is 20, that's still in front of the x. And then my C is the negative 285,000. Does that make sense to you? Even though it's not in the order you're used to seeing. You should realize which one's A, B, and C. Okay, so then we just plug it in and get it. So x equals negative B plus or minus B squared minus 4 times A times C. All over, don't forget the bottom. 2 times A. Okay? Now, if I have a negative number here and subtract it, what kind of number is the top? Still negative, right? If I start with a negative and subtract, I'm still negative, right? Then I divide by a positive, what's the answer? Negative. Do I want a negative answer if I'm looking for the number of books I'm going to publish? No. So do I need to do the subtraction one? No. You see that? You understand my thinking? So you don't need to do the plus and minus. You just need to do the plus. Okay? So, what is 2 times 0.0001? What's 2 times that? What's 2 times 0? 2 times 1. Do I need a calculator for that? Well, I hope not. Okay? So, you can put that whole thing now in your calculator with the square root, because we're looking for an actual number now, right? I told you not to on 7 and 8, but on this one, go ahead and put it in. So we got negative 20 plus the square root. Whenever in this calculator you hit square root, it starts with a parenthesis, right? So at the end, I got to remember to do what? Close it off, right? So then I put 20 squared minus 4 times 0.0001 times negative 285,000, and then close off for the parenthesis we got after the square root. Okay? I just hit enter there. You don't have to write all this out, but I'm just gonna put it 2.671568. 2.671568, or is it 09? 09. I thought I had it. Again, you don't have to write all that in. What am I gonna do now with my calculator? To finish. Divide by 0.0002, right? So divided by 0.0002, and this number will be how many books we can publish for $325,000. 13,357. Now, I don't know if anybody in this class, but thinking back on some submissions, one of the answers was like 1,900,000. Now think about that. If I had $325,000, would I be able to publish 1,900,000 books? Probably not, right? So what I'm saying is, make sure your answer makes sense, right? It might have been you just punched something in wrong, right? Maybe you forgot one of the zeros or whatever, okay? So make sure it makes sense before you turn it in tomorrow. Any questions? Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
You understand my point, right?
yeah,
All right.
I'm trying to get it right.
That's okay, I can handle it. All right, good job. Make sure we're ready for quiz tomorrow. Chase, you think you can handle it?
Sure.